There we go. Mila, you want to start? You were saying something?
Okay, it's your thing. We all good.
Oh, okay.
It's just like this little hi, welcome.
All right. So, so welcome everyone. And where are we? So I'm always trying to refine for myself where we are actually. And I like to go back to this map of the first 14 chapters. But I also want to try and refine just for a minute, like what is the original question that we had? And we actually had 3 questions, and we've already answered 2 of them, and we're in the process of answering the 3rd. So in that introduction, Reb Hillel, he gave us a statement, which is that in order to know God, it's a mitzvah to know Hashem, and we do that through Shema. And you could say that this whole first chapter is then a meditation on this one word, Shema. What do you mean, Shema? How do you do Shema? So Shema means to listen, literally, but the inner dimension of Shema is to understand. And understanding, we know, is Bina. So then he asked 3 questions. This process of understanding in Hebrew is called hitzbonenut, from the word bina. So what is hitzbonenut? How do you do Shema? How do you understand what Hashem is? So that was the first question. The second question is why they 2 nuns, and the third question is why through Bina and not Chochmah, when we know that Chochmah is higher. So in the first 14 paragraphs, he basically deals with the first 2 questions. He shows us exactly what Hisbonenus is, the process of Hisbonenus. And he explains to us what is Chochmah, what is Bina, what is Das. And when we understand those a little bit, he explains to us how the Mashpia takes a very, very high concept from beyond Chochmah and brings it all the way down to the lowest part of Bina to make it accessible to the student, to the Makabel. And that point where the Makabel, where the Mashpia and the Makabel meet, is the Orech of Bina, also known as the Bina of Bina, also known as Iyun. And that's the double nun. It's the nun of the Mashpia, bringing it down, the long nun, and the Iyun of the Makabel, which is that bent nun, which is the bitul of the Makabel. And we understood that the Iyun process for us, the Makabel, is to then work from the bottom going up, whereas the Mashpia was going from the top coming down. So he answered the first 2 questions. What is this whole process of Iyun? And also the double nun, which is the place where the Mashpia and the Makabel meet. And that was the first 14 chapters with a lot of details, but basically that's what he answered. And we came to this point of Iyun, understanding this process for the Makabel, for the student. And then now in paragraphs 15, 16, 17, and possibly the last 2 paragraphs as well, he's going to show us, he's going to answer the question, how is Bina greater in some way than Chochmah? Because from our understanding of what is Chochmah and what is Bina, it seems clear that Chochmah is more profound because you're getting more of a direct vision, literally, of the thing itself, whereas Bina is just enclothing that essence with explanations and mashalim and all of that. So how is it possible that the Iyun process that the Bina process is somehow greater than the Chochmah process. And that's what we're looking at the last 3 weeks, where we looked at, in paragraph 15, he explained, here we have paragraph 15, where he explained how Chochmah, the Yud of Chochmah, which is that flash of inspiration, is actually rooted in Ratzon, in Chochmah of Ratzon. So he explained to us, okay, so the Chochmah is rooted in Ratzon. And then he showed us, let's have a look here. Then in paragraph, the next paragraph, he showed us how Bina is really rooted in Oneg. And we looked at all the details of Oneg in relation to Ratzon. Remember that Chochmah is rooted on some level in Ratzon. And we were introduced to this idea of Bina Liba, which is in this Oneg Murgash, the Oneg that you can begin to feel, but is not yet enclosed in the Ratzon. So that's where we are pretty much. Last week we were introduced to this idea of Ekia Asher Ekia, that the name of Hashem that took us out of Mitzrayim, that is able to take us out of Mitzrayim, is this combination of Pnimiut Keser, which is Bina Liba, and the second Ekia is Bina of Bina, which is the Iyun, and the two are connected. So this very high level of Keser, of Oneg, Bina Liba, is connected to the Bina of Bina. So now is the $1 million question. I hope all of that was fairly clear to you, because it's what we've been learning. So the $1 million question is, we asked you to do this homework. Oh, let's see how this is. Okay. This was the homework, because last week we didn't get to this 4 levels of existence. So we wanted you to fill in, to look at the text and to fill in these 4 levels of existence as they are described in this paragraph. So I just want to know, from a show of hands, just so that we know really where we are, who was able to do the homework? Who filled it in? Okay. Wait a minute. Nechama Alkaleo. Let's see that. Miriam, it looks like you're trying to say something.
Yeah, I've partly done it. I can't say. I went over the text, but I can't say that I've done that specifically.
Were you not able to do it from the text, or like was it not clear enough to you? Just so that I have a sense of why.
Yeah, I don't think it was clear enough. The Hebrew could have been a little bit of an issue, but I think in the course of what we're doing today, I'll probably be able to put the pieces together. I have got a much better understanding of what we were speaking about, just in terms of the levels of Oneg. And I managed to get quite a lot deeper in my understanding of what that was all about, but I'm not quite sure if it's exactly what you were wanting.
Okay. And Nechama, you put your hand up. That was just to say that you've done it, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I don't know if it's correct, but.
All right, good. Okay, so Mila, how do you want to proceed? Should we put people in breakout rooms and let them try and do it? Or give time just to do it on your own? Or do you want to go to the text and explain it and then let people Cool.
Yeah, I think let's go to the text. I think
Okay.
that'll be, let's go to the text. We're going to read it, and we are working with page 310. This is, yeah, we are
And the English is page 67.
page, yeah, 310. Okay, great. Let me just share. It is, definitely a very, very hard concept. So when we're trying to wrap our mind around it, it's definitely a profound thing. And interestingly, many Bachrim don't even know this. So pat yourself on the shoulder. You're like, okay, we're really delving into a lot of Hasidic terminology and a lot of Kabbalistic terminology. And if you feel lost, it's okay, because it is quite hard levels to grasp, because this is not something we are conscious of on our day-to-day basis. When we're talking about machshava dibur ma'aseh, these type of concepts, this is within our reshus of consciousness, and it's easier for us to grasp and elaborate and understand, because we're constantly working with our thoughts, we're constantly working with our words that come out of our mouth, and so on and so forth, and actions that we do. But when we're talking about spheres, inner processes, by most part, these are unconscious processes. And very often, we only get to understand the underlying factors only after we actually do an action. We're like, well, whoa, how did that happen? So we should be a little bit more patient with ourselves and compassionate. And we're gonna move. Let me just press my annotation, and we're gonna get going. We're gonna read through what we did last week a little bit faster without stopping and too much explanation, and we'll move weiter from it. And it is known, this whole idea of this name of Hashem, which is called Eke Asher Eke, I will be, which I will be, right? Or I am who I am. Sheshorish Eke Hasheni hu b'bchinas Eke ha'alef. That the root of the second Eke is rooted in the first Eke. V'yadua she'Eke ha'alef hu b'chinas pnimis ha'keser hanikra atik yomin. And we know that the first Eke is the inner part of Keser, which is called Atik Yomin. Okay, which is called Atik Yomin, which is Oneg. Okay. Rak shehu gamken bebchinas bina sheboy. But it is also in the aspect of bina that's in it. Shehu bechinas bina da Atik Yomin. And this is the bina of Atik Yomin. Okay, which we know as Pnimis Nukudas Halev, which we know as Bina Liba, and so on and so forth. Okay, ve'ekya habeis, and the second ekya, hu bebchinas bina da'atzilus, is the aspect of bina of atzilus. V'hainu bina shebebina, which specifically it's bina of atzilus, shu bebchinas iyun kanal, which is the aspect of iyun as we discussed above. Umuvan mimele, and we automatically understand shesharish habina shebebina, that the shorish of bina of atzilus, hu bebchinas hakeser de bina, is b'derech prat in the keser of the bina. Okay, how do we know it? So let's freeze for a moment. Bina of bina is what? Orech, in the relationship of this three-dimensional understanding of spheres, right? It's orech of bina. Orech of bina is rooted in the keser of bina, in omek. Orech and omek. So what's omek of bina is the keser of bina. That's it, in b'derech prat. B'derech klal, it's rooted in the general keser. Or b'derech klal, and in general, b'bchinas bina haklali sheshosha b'pnimis hakeser. In the general bina, okay, which is the pnimis of the keser, the bin of pnimis keser haklali, the general one. V'nikra v'nimtza, and it is understood. We find it is understood. Muvan lamaskil. It is understood for a maskil, for a person who actually, looks deeper at things. Mikol hanal, from everything what we've learned up until now. Sheshorish ha'iyun hu bebchinos uvanta deliba. That the root of iyun is uvanta deliba. Bottom line, what he wants from everything what we have spoken up until now is for us to understand that the shorish of bina is in uvanta deliba, is an understanding of the heart, which is what? Which is the bina of atik yomin, which is the bina of oneg. Now, why this is important? V'hine kihine yedua. Now we're going to go into a new understanding, a new insight into 4 levels of existence, right? V'hine yedua, and it is known. Sheyesh daled madreges, that there are 4 steps, 4 levels, which are now, we are enumerating them. So what we could do at the moment, if you have that worksheet opened up, you could already write down things, okay? If we could do that. Now, yesh amiti is what? It's a level called yesh amiti. So what you will do is like, this is how I take notes. I'm just sharing with you. When I enter into this bunch of details, what you want to do is you want to just organize them. So how would you be organizing this information? What I would do, he's already giving us something concrete, that there are 4 levels, right? So I would just write 1, 2, 3, 4, because I want to know what are those 4 levels. Okay, and I would put on number 1, he says, Yeshamiti, so I'm going to put Yeshamiti there. Although I'm not sure whether he's going to be talking up, down, or down, up. But one thing I know for sure, that one of the 4 levels is Yeshamiti. They very hardly, Rebbeim, would ever start numerating something when they say there are 4 levels, there are 10 levels, there are 11 levels, whichever levels they're going to be discussing. Hardly, I haven't seen that they're going to numerate with number 5. They don't do that. They're either going to go up, down, or down, up. It's chesed of the Rebbeim, right? So you know that I usually, when I get into this complicated situations for the first time, I would just literally start from the middle of the page, because I have no idea. Is he gonna go up, or is he gonna go down? So you're just gonna write in the middle of the page, yesh amiti. That's it. Let me share my note-taking strategy. Okay, so you're just gonna put yesh amiti there. Okay. Now, let's go weiter, right? It's on page Kufnun Vav. Ubchinas Ayin hakolol bebchinas yesh amiti kanal. Okay, now he's giving us now the second answer, which is ayin, which is enclosed in yesh amiti, which we discussed above. Now, to be honest, that's already a second level logically, right? You're looking at it something. He's stating 1 level, and then he's stating there's a level of ayin, which is enclosed in the yesh amiti. Right? That's already a second level, right? So obviously we're understanding from now that he's going up, down. Just from us, it's like I would say, like it's a strategy of how to decode any text that you're dealing with, right? So when you have a strategy, it helps you to be less confused. It doesn't mean that you will never be confused, but it will be less confusion because you more or less create an order of how you process information. Okay, so the level number 2 would be ubchinas ayin hakolo ubchinas yesh, which is the aspect of ayin which is enclosed in yesh amiti canal. Okay, so that's level number 2. So please write that down. Level number 3, ubchinas ayin hamakor leyesh. Okay, here you might think a little bit confusion. Why? Because you don't know what he's going to say next, right? It's the aspect of ayin that becomes source for yesh. Here you might think like, wait a second, are we talking about yesh amiti or something else? And you don't know. Once you don't know, just don't write. Don't write number 3 because you don't know where to put it yet. But let's over here. and ubchinas yesh nifrad, and the aspect of yesh nifrad right here. Oh, with that information, you know to which yesh he was alluding to. He was alluding to yesh hanifrad. Am I confusing you with my strategy? Okay. Yes, shout out. No. We'll continue.
It would be so great to take an example and just do it.
Okay, great. So here we go. We're doing it. Now, so now I know now with number 3, which is the ayin, which becomes a source for yesh. And we know that that word yesh does not allude to yesh amiti. It's another yesh, which he just says next word, right? And the 4th one is bechinas yesh nifrad. So now, do you have 4 levels? Okay, great. So there are 4 levels. That's it. So you already have it in your notes. Now, you don't really need that level that we gave you, what's it called, that worksheet that we gave you, because you create your own worksheet as you read. So what I would do, and I do it till today, because we're always learning, what you do is like you really keep your book open on your left, okay? And on your right, you have a sheet of paper, and you literally take notes as you move along. Okay, so here we go. It says 4 levels. Amazing. Well, level number 1, level number 2, level number 3, level number 4. So now we know he's going up, down. Okay. Okay. So
I just want to check. You said 4 levels. I'm sorry, it's like almost like a ignorance, but 4 levels of what?
okay, we don't know yet, but it's truly we're going to find out that it's 4 levels of existence. Anything comes down, any creation comes down from these things. Okay, but over here he says he gave us a thesis of his whole work. He said over there, what I want you to know, v'nimtza muvan lamaskil mikol hanal, and it is found and understood to the maskil from everything what we said above. That's it. That's, you could cut it out, you could write it out, you could put it on top of your computer. He gave us all. This is the bottom line. The bottom line of 1st chapter, if anybody will ask you in the middle of the night, say, please, in 1 sentence, what is the bottom line of chapter 1 in Shari Yichud? You're going to say that Shoresh of Iyun is Uvanta Deliba, period. That's it. You know it. This is the Chachma. If you want to know the letters of Chachma, this is the letters of Chachma. This is the concept that came to Mittel Rebbe from his Koach HaMaskil, that Shoresh of the Iyun is in Uvanta Deliba. And then he wrote this whole situation, which is the 1st chapter of Shari Yichud. And then Reb Hillel wrote many situations, as we already like 17 paragraphs to explain this. This is the Chachma of the 1st chapter. That Shoresh of the Iyun is Bebchinos Uvanta Deliba, period. That's what he wants us to know. Okay, from everything what we learned above. Now, Nechama raised the hand.
Okay, so I'm having trouble with the way the word Iyun is used, because from my understanding, Iyun is a process. It's the focus and it's the delving into, and it's used like a noun, like to get to Iyun, like in terms of all the other, the Chochmah and Bina and everything else. So I don't really understand what's meant by Iyun, and that to get
Iyun
to
is analysis.
to get to Iyun, you in the way I'm thinking, you use Iyun as a tool and a process to get to something else, to get to being a Liba or whatever it is.
Good, you're right. But the Iyun as a process is rooted in Bina Liba. Nobody wants to stay in Iyun.
The
Iyun is a
energy
tool.
of Bina Liba fuels the process of Iyun?
For sure, yes, that's the bottom line. Why we need to know where it's rooted? Who cares where Bina Liba is rooted? Well, as we know, what do you mean, who cares? That's where she's drawing her energy from. This is her existence comes from Uvanta Deliba. This is what Shoresh means. When I say that Shoresh of my neshama, I'm just saying it, right? I don't know. Okay, let's say shorish of my neshama is connected in the same shorish of one tzaddik. What does it tell you? That we are what?
You're connected.
Amazing, beautiful. Why do you think we need to know this information? We are connected. Who cares if we're connected or not? That means that we are kind of relatives, you know? Like that big tzaddik is connected, is meaning we have some kind of relationship that may not necessarily be surfaced yet, but you know what? I'm going to come around. My life is going to bring me around to be kind of drawing my, my insights and my avodas Hashem through this tzaddik. Okay, not just, for example, when somebody says like, oh, like people are into yichus. Who cares who is yichus who? No, well, people care because if I have yichus to Rashi, let's say, right? What does it tell me? Let's say I don't have yichus to Rashi. Okay, I'm just saying, okay. Let's say I have yichus to Rashi. Okay, what does it tell? That tells that I'm connected to this great tzaddik, and his zuchus has something with my avodah. Now, that doesn't mean I don't need to do anything. That's not what yichus means. It means that it helps me. It helps me, it elevates me to a different level, whether if I wouldn't have this zuchus. Okay?
My question was not about the connection, which is pretty clear. It's really about the way the word is used and to understand it. So eon seems different than everything else that we're talking about. Because like if you would say, what's the difference between my eyesight and what I see? I use my eyesight to see a beautiful picture, say, but that's not the same.
Right. So over here, I understand that whether is it a verb or it's a noun, right? That's more or less your question is. So
yes.
Now the verb is le'ayen. Iyun is actually a noun, which is analysis, a deep study. So now it is a noun in English, but it's the noun that represents a process. I guess we call it girundi, if my English understanding of this language, yeah? It's like a word building, that it's a noun, but it has an indication of a verb being used for it, right? Building, it's not, it also could be I am building, but it's also a physical structure that's called a building, right? So the same thing is with eon. Eon is a process. Okay, so it's also a verb. There is le'ayen in an infinitive. It would be to process something, to process whatever information came through our senses. However, it's also a noun.
I just looked it up. Process, I looked up process. Is it a noun or a verb? It can be used both as a noun and as a verb.
Okay, great. So we answered the comment.
Right. So then there's the process and the result of the process.
No.
No, the result of the process is a different story. Result of the process will be dependent on the intensity of your eon. The result is having an awareness of your uvanta deliba. That would be the result. That's why he's making this yichud. He's like, okay, you know what? The shorish of the eon is uvanta deliba. Your end stop is your uvanta deliba. Whatever your oneg means, whatever the processes happen in your oneg, would be the result of your eon.
But would you say that that eon is different than any of these other terms that we're using? In that it's both.
No, it's both, because there is a process of chokhmah, but it's also a process. It's called hitchakmut, right? A scholar.
Can I just, part of the clarity for me was in one of the previous paragraphs, he was very clear that Iyun begins in Bina of Bina, which is also known as the Orach of Bina, which is the most external part of Bina. That's where you begin to receive the information from the Mashpia. But then the process of Iyun is this very intense analysis, study, focus, And the Eon process takes you where? To the Oimek of Bina. And that's as far as the Eon process can take you. And then another process takes over. I don't remember which paragraph, but he explained that in very simple terms. That's exactly what he says. The Eon process will take you, if you do it deeply enough and intensely, often enough, whatever it is, you can come to this place of Oimek of Bina, and then something else kicks in that takes you to the right brain. So that's Eon. Now, I think that, Nechama, you're asking a very important question, which is, what does it mean that this Eon is rooted in Oneg? Is it that the Oneg drives you to do the Eon process, or to even start that process? Like, what gets a person to start, to continue? So that might be, on the one hand, that it is the oneg. And, if you do really get into the Eon process, there is an oneg in the process itself. The journey becomes something that in and of itself gives you a certain pleasure, in different ways for different people. But the question is also, like, what does it mean that it's rooted there? Does it mean that through the Eon process, you're going to reach Avanta Deliba? That's kind of my question. You could say that the root is drawing you, is motivating you, but is it also that that's where you're going to be reaching? That you're drawing down from that source?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely both.
Would you say that the start of the process is in Ratzon?
No, it's in the pleasure that precedes the Ratzon. That's why he told us. V'kol oneg, v'kol Ratzon yesh oneg mitchibitchilasi. Remember? We had this short paragraph starting with this words, opening our understanding. Because I'll tell you, we are so not aware of our oneg, but we are very much aware of our desires. Right? So we skip this process. Oneg is like a snapshot, and it just disappears very fast.
Isn't oneg the drive?
It's also an experience. I mean,
but the chatchila, we have an inner drive. That's the way we operate. That's the whole operating system.
Yeah.
The OS.
Always operate with our oneg. We may not feel it. A lot of times our oneg is shut down by our chinuch, because for some reason there is a notion that you're not supposed to feel pleasure, right?
Or we forget. We don't tune in. We're so all over.
But it's also chinuch. We are told to disconnect from it, because we should not be pleasure-seeking individuals. Because pleasure-seeking individuals all of a sudden turn into a behemoth.
Maybe that's Litvish. Turn down oneg.
Not necessarily, no. I've seen it in Chabad Chinuch. I mean, Baruch Hashem, I'm around for like good 20 years in Crown Heights Chinuch. So I'm, pretty much aware how and, what is, being taught. People are not necessarily taught how to control, but they usually taught how to shut down. And I think is why, because to bring a child's awareness is much harder than just to tell him to shut up. I just don't feel. That's much easier than to actually spend a long time teaching him a deeper awareness, because most people don't know how to themselves, so they don't, and that just what it is, and it's nobody to blame to. Okay, this is just a different story. Also, generationally, we tend to be more on a survival mode, and when you are in a survival mode, there is no time to think of your pleasures in Hakadosh Baruch Hu. You just need to act. You need to produce a result. You need to focus on your action, regardless what you feel, regardless, what you're thinking about it. Hamaisu ayikar, that statement is a beautiful statement, but it's also very much abused. Kabbalah's all. Right? And if you go deeper into the Rebbe's teaching, you see that the Rebbe says, that it's the beginning of the Avodah. We have to teach our kids Kabbalah's all. It's very, very important. But it's just the beginning. Then if there is no oneg kicks in, people burn out. How long can you be only on Kabbalah's all mode? Because Kabbalah's all mode is the Ratzon mode, is when a king sends an order and we must comply. Kabbalah's all is the Ratzon mode. It's not oneg mode. And if from the avodah, from the practice itself, oneg is not attained, it's not there, then the person either gets depressed, either gets suppressed, either finds oneg in other gashmias things, and Yiddishkeit is no longer an exciting part.
1 second. If it's Ratzon, so if I'm doing it dry because it's Hashem's Ratzon, then it's Kabbalah soul. But if I'm doing it with my Ratzon, then there already have to be some tainug in it, no? Not necessarily, but possibly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, that our Ratzon merges. There's a reason why Pesach es Yadecha must be a lekol chai Ratzon, right? Why Ratzon is in singular, right? The Ratzon is in singular because it's one Ratzon. We are ultimately one with Hashem's Ratzon. We may not be aware of it. Okay, and we think that we have our Ratzon and Hashem's Ratzon, and there's a struggle and all that stuff. But that's only when we look from Das Tachton perspective. We're really getting off the topic. Looking from Das Tachton perspective, okay? But from Das Elyon perspective, it's all good, okay? We're doing exactly what Hashem wants us to do. Okay.
Mila, do you want to just share the image so that people can at least see, okay, this is what they should have written down?
Yes. No, but we didn't do it yet. The image is just gonna say 4 levels. Right. Okay.
Right. Even as it was though. The homework, the image from the homework.
All right. Let me see how I can do it.
If you stop sharing, I can just share it. Oh, okay.
Stop sharing, yeah. I'll go to our presentation and we'll
I made the same amount with kid.
So
okay, so we're gonna do both.
There it is. I mean, that's basically, with a little bit too detail.
You're sharing it with it? Okay, great.
So there's, on the top is Yesh Amiti. Then next down, number 2 is Ayin HaKarul B'Yesh. You could be writing it in English. Then there's Ayin HaMakor L'Yesh, the Ayin that is the source for the Yesh HaNivrat, the separate Yesh. So basically at this point, you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. You don't have all this other stuff yet because we didn't get to it, but that's what we're working with. Everybody got that? Yes, no, maybe. Just say something. Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right. Somebody else. We know Getty's got it. One other person.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, great.
So let's continue.
So We're going to continue with the text. Okay. Yeah, you see my screen? Okay, great.
Great.
1 second. Kufnun. All right. I don't know why it's constantly skips by me. Excuse me, please, if your eyes are blurry with all my movements. Okay, we are right here. Kufnun Vav. Okay. Okay, we're going to start from here. Behina bechinas yesh amiti ubechinas bina da'atik yomin, right? The yesh amiti is the aspect of bina atik yomin. Okay, so now we know where to write. Remember, there was like one error there. So you're going to put the, now we first knew that there was 4 levels. Yesh amiti, 2 levels of ayin, and yesh nifrad. Okay, we knew that. Okay, now, so what's yesh amiti? So basically what he's doing, everything with all the levels that we learned up until now are going to fill into that table now. So what's yesh amiti? Yesh amiti is bina of atik yomin. When Hashem has a true, Hashem is the true existence. And which level in Hashem is the true existence? Is the bina of atik yomin. Bina is yesh. And yesh amiti, it's a true yesh, where Hashem has a pleasure in this world. And it's a felt pleasure. He's like, you know what? I really want to have this world. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure for me to have this world. That's why I'm having this world, right? You might think like you might not really able to wrap your mind around your head right now, around this idea is like, Hashem has a pleasure in this? Really? It's like, this world is so disgusting. Don't go there. Okay, Hashem is a pleasure. This is why this world continues existing. Okay, that's it.
Was it Bina of what?
Bina of Atik Yomin. In the aspect of Golgotha, Sho'atzmos haratzon. So remember, the Bina of Atik Yomin, with the essence of the Ratzon, it makes yesh amiti, these 2 things. Okay, remember when we were talking about that there is this level, he becomes makor for the Ratzon and all that, right? This is what we're talking about. Okay, so these levels are yesh amiti, meaning Hashem has a pleasure, and now he wants. There's a chafetz, right? He desires the world. This is the makor of the Ratzon. Okay, we wrote it down. So now right next to yesh amiti, you're gonna write there this. Okay, ubechinas ayin hakolu bechilas yesh. The aspect of ayin, which is enclosed yet in the yesh amiti, ubechinas hachachma de Golgotha, is the aspect of the chachma of the Golgotha. Okay, v'chachma stima, and the hidden chachma. Okay.
Hey, Mila, I missed the second part of yesh amiti, because I have, the first is Bina of Atik Yomin, and then I had Bina of Bina, which is Atzilus.
No, Bina of Bina is yesh nifrad. It's all the way on the bottom. You don't need to write Bina of Bina. It's yesh nifrad. Remember?
So what's in the second box then?
There is no second box.
There's a second
Box number
part.
1.
The second box is the Ratzon, the essence of the Ratzon.
Essence of the Ratzon. It's still part of yesh amiti.
It's part of Bina of Atik Yomin?
It's Bina of yesh amiti.
Look, the text says that the yesh amiti is the aspect of Bina of Atik Yomin, which we know is Bina of Oneg.
Golgotha.
Atik Yomin is Oneg. Im with Bechinas Hagalgalta. Oh, sorry, it went away. Together with the aspect of the Galgalta, which is the essence of. Okay, good.
Do you
Just
see my
the
two
essence of the-
screens? Is it possible for you to see my two screens?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Yay, I figured out how to do it.
All right, so Golgotha goes in the second box.
Exactly. Here you're gonna put Atik Yomin,
Mhm.
right? Over here, Bina of Atik Yomin. And here you're gonna put essence of the Ratzon, right? Golgotha, right?
Golgotha is the essence of the Ratzon.
Exactly, yeah. So that's why it has two. Okay.
So essence of Ratzon comes from Oneg.
For sure, yeah, that's why it's two. Yesh Amiti, you cannot have Yesh Amiti only with the pleasure and no desire. Like pleasure causes the desire to emerge to want to have it, what you have pleasure in.
Okay. I'm still back to the Eon, because it's hard for me to imagine.
Only missions.
Oneg is something you've experienced and you want because you've experienced it. So how can you know that you want Eon if you haven't done it?
No, we're not applying it yet. One
Okay.
second. No application yet.
Okay, sorry.
He's giving us a map. He says, no, he already concluded. What did he conclude it with? He concluded that Eon is connected, is rooted in Bina Liba. That's the connection he made so far. This is what's known, right? So now we're going to forget about, he's bringing us into Eon mode right now. He's like, okay, you remember this I said? Okay, great. Now I'm going to show you from a different aspect the same conclusion you're going to come. Okay, so he's taking us on another route that's going to bring us to the same destination. He says to us right now here, again, I don't know why I got to 320. This is, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go, right? He says over here, right? Yesh Amiti was what? Yesh Amiti ubchina bina da'atik yomin. Just simply for your own thing, remember the note-taking strategy, right? We're sharing our note-taking strategy. So I already have this thingy in me. I wrote Yesh Amiti. I don't know that it's going to divide into two levels yet, right? I know Yesh kolol, Ein kolol b'yesh. I wrote down over here, Ein makor leyesh. And I wrote over here, Yesh nifrat. That's all what I did. Okay? That's it. So now he says to me, Yesh Amiti is going back to Yesh Amiti. He says Yesh Amiti has a level which is called, okay, what did he say over here? Vehina bechinas Yesh Amiti u bechinas bina da'atik yomin. So I'm going to write over here, bina of atik yomin. Okay, why are you writing in this funny color? I'll just change color for visibility. Here we go. You got it? Here we go. We have it? Yeah? You see it or you don't? Here we go. Bina da'atik yomin. That's what I'm writing. Okay, great. So I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going back to the text and it says over here, Yesh amitu b'chinas bina da'atik yomin im b'chinas gulgolta. With the level of Golgotha. Now, I know that Golgotha and Bina of Atik Yomin are not the same thing. So therefore, I understand that Yesh Amiti now splits into two levels. One is Bina of Atik Yomin, the other one is Golgotha. Yeah, am I writing here? Okay, very good. So it's Golgotha, which is what?
The skull.
In a Ratzon. Very good. It's a skull, but the skull represents something. What does skull represent?
The Ratzon.
Very good. It's very good. It represents Ratzon. It's a Golgotha, right? Okay, great. So we have Golgotha. Now we know. Okay, now go back to the text. We did this in, okay, now he's talking about Ein hakolol b'bchinas hayesh amiti. Yeah, meaning the second level. Ayin hakolol b'bchinas yesh amiti is what? Hu b'chinas chachma de Golgotha. V'chachma stima. So he says it's two levels, right? The chachma of the Ratzon. You're going to tell me, well, how did you know it was Ratzon? Well, Golgotha is Ratzon. We just said that, right? Okay, so it's chachma of Ratzon. Chachma of Ratzon. Okay, just changing colors for visibility. And hidden chachma. Chachma stima. Now, let me ask you, you have a question about chachma stima? Who can answer? What level is this? What is this chachma stima is?
I think Pele.
Pele and Aleph, if you want to be particular.
Oh,
Right? It's a hidden chachma, meaning the chachma is these two aspects. There's a chachma of the Ratzon, and then there's a chachma stima, which is these two levels, Pele and Aleph. This is goes, meaning he now generalizes it, okay? Which is Pele and Aleph. I'm sorry, and Aleph. Okay? Pele and Aleph. Amazing. So we move back to the text. Okay, now ubechinas ayin hakol ubechinas hayesh amiti ubechinas hachachma de Golgotha bechachma stima. Okay, now the third level. Ubechinas ayin hamakor leyesh, an aspect of ayin which is the source for the yesh. Which yesh?
that's it.
Amazing. Yes, yesh and nifrad, which is what? Hu bechinas chachma gluya, right here. Chachma gluya. Oh, that means it's chachma gluya, revealed chachma. Now, another name for chachma. Another name for chachma. A process. What happens?
Aleph. Aleph.
No, Aleph we already said was
Yes.
right. Aleph and Pele is here. Chachma gluya is what's the other name? It's like, you know, an imagery. It's like, oh, happens in your head. A revealed chachma happens in which way? It's like
The flash.
Flash of chachma. Very good. And which name for it in Hebrew?
Barak HaMavrik.
Amazing. Yes, Barak HaMavrik. Barak HaMavrik. That takes place here. And you might think to yourself, it's like, it looks like it's already a little yesh, right? It's already something. Something is being created here. It's already a concrete chachma. It's not hidden yet. It's already something very concrete and revealed. A person is aware. If he looks deeper inside of him, he's aware of his Barak HaMavrik. It happens. Okay, he's like, oh, right? There's always an excitement when Barak HaMavrik happens, right? The same way how people get excited when they walk around in the middle of darkness and all of a sudden a light turns on, right? There's no person will say like, oh, I don't really need that light. I can figure out how to get home all by myself. No, normal people don't say that. They appreciate the light. They're like, oh, now I see better. Now I can understand things better. I know where to go. It gives me a sense of direction. An insight, an excitement. Okay. So Chachma Gluya is Barak HaMavrik. And what happens next? Umetzias Hayesh, and the Metzias of Zayesh, Ubchinas Bina. Oh, and this one is Bina. Amazing. And what's Bina? Who knows? What's Bina?
You said Bina that Sila, so you don't need that.
Whatever, it's Bina. It's a concept of Bina. Bina is what?
Mia.
Okay, fine. But also the famous process that we are learning about.
Ion.
Amazing. Bina.
Understanding.
Bina.
Ion, is that correct?
Yeah, Eon. Yeah, I wrote it here, right here. You see, Bina is Eon. Okay. Okay. Metzias Hayesh, Ubchinas Bina. Okay. Now he's gonna make this famous wow that we say it all the time. We see the Rebbe mentioning it all the time. Vayadua, and it is known. The Kol hatchalos koshes, that all beginnings are hard, all of them. Amazing. So what are you trying to tell? And therefore, hatchalas habitul miyesh la'ayin. The beginning of bitul from yesh into ayin, mukhrach liyos, has to be bitikbaris gadol, with great effort, hitgabrus, with great overcoming of obstacle, right? Meaning, we are finding ourselves right here. Okay, so I'm just gonna, for the beauty purposes, I'm just gonna move to this slide, which is the same as what we spoke, okay? But it's just a little bit nicer. So we find ourselves right here in this Bina of Bina Iyun process. Now it's yesh, meaning it's something exceptionally concrete. It's my understanding of things, okay? My perceptions, my programs. It's my consciousness with all its limitations, okay? And I'm trying to wrap my head around Elokus, around Hashem's perception of God. Isn't that the goal? Right?
Yes.
Amazing. So I am this limited being that have been living on earth for 45 years, being raised by beautiful parents, sets of parents with their own limitations, with all my generational traumas and Holocaust and everything else, and all the inflictions and everything that is on the shoulders of these generations. Yeah, I'm focusing on me specifically. The way I was raised, what my mother was thinking about during pregnancy, what was going on during the conception, and everything, okay? And the environment that I grew up, and the Soviet Union, and all the shticks of goyim around me, and my schooling, and me immigrating to America, every single thing created billions upon billions network connections in my brain, which is called my life experience. Now, that could be true or not true. I have my own conclusions, my hanachis, okay, my understanding. This is my yesh, okay, as a full expression it may be. My mistakes, my true concept, not true concept, everything else that goes on into my bina, right? It's my hardcore yesh. Now, why in the world, in my beginning of wrapping my head around Elokus, around godliness, how am I going to do that? How in the world I'm going to let go of my limited perceptions, traumas, and everything else that creates Mila as Mila, okay? And be able to have this bittul and see from here, from we call it Das Elyon perspective, okay? Where I don't even have Das Tachton perspective. You understand? I have no Das into anything. How in the world that's going to happen? I have to go through the process of bittul. Okay? We all agree with that? Chassidus talks a lot about bittul. How that's going to happen? I'm such a yesh. Anybody knows me. I'm such a yesh. Okay? It's like, how in the world is going to happen? How in the world my yesh is going to be mevatel itself to first my chachma, which is here, okay? Then it's going to mevatel itself into the aleph of chachma, into the pele of the Tohom Rabbah. I cannot do it right now. In 5 minutes, I'll be able to do it. Yes, you could. Okay. Okay. Step out. Okay. You see, I'm telling great ideas. Okay. And then I'm going to reach the chachma of my ratzon. This is a greater bittul. Okay. And then into the atzmus of my ratzon, which is right here. And then take a look into this pleasure and look from Hashem's perspective. Hashem is a pleasure in creating me every single moment, and I'm going to look from up-down perspective. How is that going to happen? Okay. because it's the beginning of the process, because it's the beginning of my yesh being mevatel, okay, into a greater ocean of godliness, okay, that's what he says of it. Kol hatchalos kashes. It's going to be exceptionally difficult for me. So what do you think Hashem is gonna inflict me or give me something impossible, mission impossible to complete? He says, you know what? I know that kol hatchalos kashes, v'lachein, and therefore, hahatchalas habitul miyesh la'ayin. The beginning of the bitul would have to require, okay, betigbaras gadol, with great efforts. V'lachein, and therefore, Hashem already knows, it's going to be so difficult for Mila to do this. Okay, v'lachein shorsha magia ba'atzmi yosaneh hayesh amiti. Therefore, I'm going to give her something, okay, that her yesh is not going to freak out. Because if my nefesh habahamis, right, if my animal soul, my yesh, okay, is going to sense that it's going to go into complete nothingness, is going to create such a sabotage, okay, that all my Torah mitzvahs are going to go flying out of the window. Okay, so in order for that not to be the trigger, in order to satisfy my true yesh and give it, you know what? You're truly not going to become nothing. You're truly going to become something, yesh amiti, something so much greater than who you are. You're going to have so much pleasure, okay? Subconsciously, Hashem instills, okay, this program in a way. Okay, so my Nefesh Bahamas is going to say, you know what? I'm ready for it. I'll do it. I'm going to put up with this whole iron process, okay? And I'm going to do it. No problem. I'm going to become something new, something greater than what I am. Now, the mashal that's given in Chassidus is fascinating. And before I'll tell this to you, I will tell my kids to step out of this room because they're really bothering me. Okay, Mashal, you need to step out.
Mila, you know what? Give the mashal first.
Okay, the mashal that's given to this is so fascinating, and we do that all the time. Okay, anybody's into planting, this is exactly what happens. You take one seed, you put it in the ground, and what do you think happens? It rottens. You're like, excuse me, I just planted you. Not for you to rotten, for you to grow as a tree. Well, guess what? It cannot grow into a tree unless it goes into this rottening process, the way it completely erases any ramifications it had with its original anything, existence, which was just one seed. And then it triggers in earth the process of growth and becomes into a beautiful, gorgeous tree. I mean, if you take the seed and you compare it with an end product of this gorgeous, beautiful, fruit-bearing tree, you'll be like fascinated. You'll be like, how did that happen? It does not make sense. There are seeds that literally look like one dot. Like literally, it's iron. You're like, what's going on here? It's nothing compared to what it grows to, but it has to go through this process of iron, process of complete nullification. For what? For just becoming nothing? Just turning into earth and then that's it? No, for coming something greater than what's supposed to be, right? Now this little seed, it turns into this gorgeous tree. Oh, that's what you're doing this for. Now I understand. So now I'm ready for that. Okay. Is that clear? Like why he's saying here, kol hatchalos kashes?
So, Mila, I hear it slightly differently, not to negate what you're saying, but maybe in addition, when he says that it's so difficult to enter into that first process of the yesh becoming the ayin. What I'm hearing is that because it's so difficult, it forced, like in that difficulty, you awaken something so high.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's not opposing it. But why is it difficult?
Because it's difficult to go from yesh to ayin.
Exactly. Because what's the difficulty there? We're just using the terms. The difficulty is the psychological process of yesh to turn into nothing. It doesn't feel comfortable.
It's letting go of everything you know.
Exactly. It's like you're stepping into something that you have absolutely no experience with. You have no idea what's going on. You're like, but excuse me, this is my life experience. This is how I feel. This is everything and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're really going to just take everything what I know away? And it's like, you know what? Lech lecha. This is what lech lecha is. You know, lech lecha, go. Where am I going to go? Oh, I'll show you. And La'aretz Asher is like, really? It's a Mesiras Nefesh. It's really, but listen, I have my father here. This is my land. I grew up here for 75 years. I lived, and just like sending me somewhere, I don't even know where that is. So it takes the level of trust in Hashem, bitachon. It takes the level of great. So now Hashem, knowing that it's so difficult to do, gives that pleasure. It's rooted in that pleasure, so we don't feel complete nothing. Like does that make sense? It's all of a sudden turns into a process that we will appreciate. He says, you know what? You want to have that process. Just trust in me. I want the best for you. You will enjoy in the end.
What it makes me realize is the Midbar is an ayin. We couldn't go from Mitzrayim to Eretz Israel.
Amazing, yes, but then for what? But the end result is Eretz Israel.
Right, so
like, you're just going to be in Midbar for the rest of your life. Sorry, guys, you're so messed up. In Mitzrayim, you did terrible things. You're in 49 gates of Tumah. You'll just die in Mitzrayim. No, what they're gonna say, what the Yidden said constantly, let us at least go back to Mitzrayim. We had at least yesh there. You're taking what we didn't have enough kvarim in Midbar. They're constantly like saying this. How many times? I don't even know. Many times throughout the Midbar.
Yeah.
Oh, you brought us here to kill us all. But that's with the limited perception. Even when they cross the sea, that's like the first, getting over, the first ayin. It's like, okay, cut everything what you know from Mitzrayim. Okay. Oh, but maybe they're crossing on the other edge, the same way how we are crossing. Hashem says, oh, you worry about that, no problem. I'm throwing all the Egyptians right in front of your feet. They are gone. They are 100% gone. Okay, no problem. Okay, so now they're ready to step out, and it says that Moshe Rabbeinu had literally commanded them to leave this place and to move forward. Otherwise, they would be just sitting in front of the sea and still collecting whatever they wanted to collect from this Mitzrayim. Right? It's Rashi talks about it. It's like, okay, like he literally had to tell them, like, okay, get out of here. That's it. Enough is enough. Dealing with Mitzrayim. We have a whole mission to accomplish. And you're still getting caught up of this, of the details with Mitzrayim. But why? But this is just, the process. It's a process. But the reason why we're able to go through this process is because the end result is flashing in our subconscious mind on a constant basis, because it's rooted there.
And because there goes the point of separation between the old and the new.
Exactly. Yes. You first need to separate in order to create something new. That's why we have teenage years, right? Anybody has teenagers? It's rotting. It's a huge rotting process, right? Where they're separating from the parents when they're becoming their own Metzias. And yeah, they go through the stage of ayin. It's, it's not the most pleasurable process for some people.
There's an expression, Yesh. How's it go? Yesh, V'ayin.
Be'emtza, exactly. That's what it is. Between yesh and yesh, there's ayin be'emtza. The chiddush of Shara Yichus, it says there's two yesh be'emtza, not one yesh. But derech prat, there's two yesh there.
A question I have.
I-
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
I think that all of us, Jewish people, as a rule, have no problem to do this bitul. We see the soldiers, they were giving up their lives. I mean, that is not the problem. And we see also throughout history that sometimes people gave up their lives for the wrong ideas. I think that tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think that in essence, the Jew has this koach to do the bitul. The chokhmah not the chokhmah, the point is that it should be for the yesh amiti and not for false yeshes.
Yeah. 100%. But here we're talking about the process of iyun. Why? It's much easier, I think, just to go and give up your life than to do iyun. I'm sorry to say that, but I'll just say it.
Yeah. I heard that from from a therapist.
Because-
It's easier to die than to change.
Because to change your processes, it's much painful process than just to go and jump off, and you'll see that we constantly tend to do that. We constantly want to deviate our attention and do something else other than inner work. Inner work is hard. It's just what it is. And you know what? Interestingly, we no longer need to give up our lives for Yiddishkeit. Hashem created an environment before the Geula that you are forced to do your inner work. Hashem is really forcing us to do it. It's
This
like
inner work is more intellectual, not avodat hamidot at all.
no, not necessarily. The Mida is Hidgabrus. He says it very clearly. Hidgabrus is not intellectual.
Right.
The work is of the mind. It's avodas hamoichin. It's not intellectual word. It's the word of the mind. The mind has many components, and intellect is one part of it. Okay, he didn't say avodas sichlis. You could have said,
Right.
it's not. It's avodas hamoichin. Moichin has many aspects to it, but the hitgabrus is the midah.
Right.
We definitely have an element of avodas midas here as well. Is overcoming urges and different explanations and inner resistances into this. So let's just move on a little bit, because I looked at the clock, it's 11:20. But yadua de kol atchalas kashes, v'lechein atchalas habitul miyesh la'ayin muchrach liyas b'hidgabrus gadol, right? It has to be with great hidgabrus. V'lechein shorsha megia ba'atzmus hayesh. Therefore, its source come into the atzmus of the yesh, because it needs yesh amiti. It needs that extra it requires the essence pretty much. You can't just get away with lower levels of godliness. You need the essence of it. And therefore the iyun, which is the beginning of the process of the bitul, v'hafshata, right? Miyesh gashmi, right? It's like kind of like stripping off of this yesh gashmi, of this levushim, right? You're removing your levushim. You're removing the coarseness of your own understanding, right? And you're embodying ideas that might in the beginning look very interesting, look crazy, okay? And you're like, wait a second, you know what? I know I don't feel comfortable with this idea, not because there's something wrong with this idea, but because I'm unfamiliar of thinking in these terms. Okay, and what am I? And what's the story there? Right, he's stripping, he's removing from his and into the ayin that his source is reaching all the way to the yesh amiti, which is the aspect of uvanta deliba, meaning the end result. We do want to get to abina liba. Okay, shorosh umakora amiti lechol minei chachma, which is truly, and look over here, he says over there, which is even the chachma is a true source of it, is uvanta deliba. meaning everything streams from it. Okay, but kol zehu daik al yedei ha'iyun, and all this is done specifically through iyun.
Mila, when you say uvanti lebina, it's the same thing on bina liba?
Exactly, yeah. Uvanta de liba, bina liba, it's all the same, yeah. Bina liba is understanding of the heart. Uvanta de liba is an Aramaic expression of meaning understanding of the heart. Okay. It comes from below to above, right? But kol or chayzer, lekadmusei. There is a rule that every light that returns to its origin. Okay. So Bina, since it's coming from Bina of Atik, it projects back to its origin. Okay. Shuhu atzmus hayeshamiti, which is the atzmus of yeshamiti. Okay. That's why the iyun is so powerful. That even by the Rebbe, there is an aspect of iyun, as we discussed, that by mashpia is also iyun. And because of that iyun, it gets him to that level as well. Otherwise, if not for that, they would be stuck in the level of mamik, right? Mashenkin bechinas hanikra mamik, right? But if they would be only in the level of mamik, lo ye'orarag bechinas ha'ayin hakolol b'yeshamiti, right? What level the mamik would awaken? Only the level of ayin. Shezeu bechinas ha'chochma de Golgotha, right? This would be only the chachma that's in the Golgotha, but chachma stima, chula v'dal, and these two levels. It only will awaken these two levels in order to give birth to the concept here and here, right? But he says, well, these are all levels of ayin. Okay, we want to awaken this. Why? Because that's a true source. That's where it's all coming from. Everything, anything over the creation comes from this source. Okay, why? Because Hashem wants it. Otherwise, it would not exist. Okay, this is basic emunah. Nothing exists besides Hashem's ratzon. And why Hashem wants it? There's a pleasure there. All the time. Okay?
You know, it's interesting that you talk about bittul, and how you get the bittul is by something which is contrary to bittul, which is a tikvayrus, which is a surge of something, of like whatever you're going to call it.
Yeah, so our understanding of bittul, and this is something that we like talking a lot with Neria, right? People think that bittul is becoming nothing, but in order to become nothing, a person could go through the process of bittul only when they found their yesh. When you yesh nifrad, when you actually collect yourself into who you think you are, only then you could mevatel this, because you cannot mevatel something if you're nothing. Yeah, and people sometimes afraid to collect their thoughts together and to say, okay, who is Mila? Can you define in your own understanding? Okay, and if you cannot do that, guess what? Nothing will happen. Why? Because if you don't have your own understanding of a concept, you cannot mevatel it.
Well, but a bittul really is alignment.
Fine, but you need to first have your own understanding. Even if it's coarse, even if it's limited, even if it's not correct, whatever that is, you have to have together of something. Right. I am understanding this way.
You have to give up yours. You are aligning with yourself to align with.
Exactly. Beautiful. And it's interestingly, I think generationally, we see that happening. Everybody is self-searching, everybody's trying to find themselves, and blah, blah, blah. And there's so much critique on it. It was like, oh, you're so self-centered you're becoming such a big yesh, it's all about you, and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. It's a beginning of the process, because a person first have to find themselves in the most limited way possible, so they could kind of
Yeah.
rise higher than that. But if a person finds themselves, oh, I'm nebach, I'm nothing, who am I, what am I, and all that, that's not bittul. That's false humility. That's running away from the responsibility of actually doing a true work, a true bittul. Okay, and then when we see our teenagers, self-indulging, we shouldn't worry about it. Why? Because they self-indulging right now, they are creating their own yesh. And when they're going to finish that work, whether they want or whether they don't want, Hashem is going to create a cause of events around them to strip off that yesh. So iyun process could happen by us doing our internal work, or by life events that will force us to do that inner work.
I think also if you don't have a yesh, when you encounter a new idea that is really mind-blowing, if you don't have a question about it, you don't have an opinion about it, when you hear the truth of something, it doesn't make such an impression because it's not something that you thought about or had a different idea about. But when you really, are working or you have a question about something, even if you come to this with the question, like he starts with, like, how do you get to know Hashem? Then, everything that he's saying, maybe it doesn't seem to answer the question exactly, but then the answer becomes interesting because you have a question. But if you don't, if there's no yesh to begin with, and in this case, I'm saying like a yesh is a question or a desire, then somebody could, give you all the information in the world, but you don't have a vessel for it because you're not, you could say like a yesh is a vessel. The yesh is the vessel. And the moment there's a vessel, there will be light. But if you don't have a vessel for it, you're not interested in it, then, somebody could give you all the information in the world and it's just passes you by because you don't go like, wow, that's exactly what I'm trying to find out. I think
That's learning with Rashi, right? To awake the curiosity and then to satisfy it.
Right. Did you say Rashi? I mean,
yeah,
it was a revelation to me, like in my early days of tshuva, that Rashi was answering a question. And the first thing you had to do is figure out what was the question. Because otherwise the Rashi was like, next. But if you understand the question that Rashi is answering, then you go, wow. And if you had that question, when you saw the Rashi, you would go even more wow. Sorry, Cody, do you wanted to say something?
No, I say, yeah.
Okay.
We don't have, I don't have I look at the text, I don't have the knowledge, and the curiosity to see anything strange. He tells me, this is strange. There is something here. Wake up. And then I'm able to say, okay, tell me. Yeah. We should do that in every conversation, I think.
Yeah.
to awake the motivation to listen.
What's interesting, just to continue with that mashal, is that Rashi says that he is answering the questions of a 5-year-old. And I have had that experience of, learning Torah with a 5-year-old, and they do ask those questions. They are still open enough and curious enough to notice where there's a break in the logic, and they will ask it. They will see it. And I think as we get older, we kind of lose that a little bit. And yeah, we don't notice where there's a break in logic because we're so used to living without logic. One other thing that I wanted to say, I think in relation to what Giti was talking about, I think in general, there's an idea, or certainly I had an idea, that bitul was somehow something passive. Like it's a passive process, like I give myself up. And what I've experienced and understood through trying to do Iyun on Shara Yichud is that actually it's not passive at all. It's extremely active. The process of bitul is extremely, it's active, it's Iyun. You're actively engaged. And then at some point, something opens up and there's a bitul. So
of course, it's like the yeast.
Is active.
The yeast. It's like the yeast who wants to come up all the time, and we punch it to put it down. The dough with yeast.
Oh, the dough, the yeast. It's interesting. The ego.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah. That people, it's very difficult to translate bitul into any language.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think actually, Cody, I like your mashal, because in the Iyun process, the ego rises up and says, nah, don't do it, it's too hard, or, you're not yet in the das of the process, meaning you're not connected, so you get distracted and you go away and, get something from the refrigerator, or you take a phone call, or whatever it is. Like, that's the ego rising up, and you have to push it down and keep going forward until this the bitul kind of manifests, when it stops rising up to oppose the journey.
Well, one of the other ways of bitul, the ego getting in, is to create a very nice concept. Oh, 1, 2, 3, now I understand it, and then you just like the cemented one. Well, don't worry about it, because if you're really studying the text, you'll notice that they will explain certain things, and you think like, oh, your ego says, amazing, I understood it, I don't have to work too hard. And then the next sentence just completely blows you away. And you're like, wait a second, what did you just say? Didn't you just say this 2 lines before? Remember how we did with Iyun? In the beginning, he said, by the Rav, there is no Iyun. And okay, amazing, there is no Iyun by the Rav, by the Makabal, there is Iyun, blah, blah, blah. We thought we understood it. But then he says, well, you know what? Truly, there is Iyun. And your physical mind would be like, wait a second, it's so illogical. Did you just say there's no Iyun? Or, for example, he will say, B'derech klal is like this, but B'derech prat is like this, but B'derech this is like that, but it truly is like that. But if you look deeper, it's like that. So he plays with your mind constantly to allow that flexibility, because our human mind likes to cement something, draw a conclusion, and put it in a file. That's it. But, that this element of surprise shouldn't surprise you, because it's there to create that bitul, to create that openness. So you're like, oh, let me look into this deeper.
Well, also the discussion that Neria was presenting, it reminds me of a parallel idea. When you say you have a person who's very defiant, let's say you had these people coming in for Begisha and they were so defiant and they were so difficult, they were like hijacking all the conversation, all the discussion. And then you have another person who's indifferent and no opinions, cold. So the Rebbe was telling us, coldness, Chassidus tells the coldness, you can't go anywhere with it, not forward and not backward. And defiance is passion, and you're alive. And with that, you can move. And so this discussion reminded me of it, that when you're alive, you need to be alive. That bitul also needs to be alive. It's not indifference.
All right,
Right.
Mila, where do we go from here? What do you want to do? Breakout room?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll do like a very short breakout room for you to discuss this and really see like going over the details. I'll tell you, like we could sit on these beautiful insights. That's a great thing, but the details are very important, because based off that, we're going to be lining our second chapter as well. So this is literally like he's giving us a process of Iyun, what we're going to be doing Iyun on, and the levels are very important. So if you guys could just maybe take the first without all these words and just put them together during the breakout rooms, I think would be amazing. That we have 3 questions there. I'm just trying to see. We'll print afterward. I'm a complete unknown. Thank you. I have to leave. Okay, great. So do we have 5 minutes for those who wanna I think we do have, like now it's 11:39. Let's just do it till 1:45, and we will take it from there. So how many people we have left with? We have 11. Let me just do the breakout rooms.
So it's on the WhatsApp group, the diagram.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, the rooms are open. Please join.
Record now?
So we just want to get feedback from you. If that was clear, we've got 2 minutes, just 2 minutes of feedback.
Can I share?
Yes, Getty.
So I have this thing going on with Nachamat, and that's why I was so happy to meet up with her, because I'm trying to understand what is going on, why is there this issue, and how does our operating system work to want to do this, and why would a person not want to, and how is so different. But what we came up with, and tell me if this is right. So I said, when we're going upwards here, right? In Shar Yichud. We're not going down. So in other words, we're not telling you turn on your Ava and Yira. We're telling you to feed in to your Tainuk that drives you from above. And also, the whole idea of how we're constructed is parallel the way Hashem operates. Hashem decided to follow up Tainuk, his innermost drive, gear, and create a world. So now, in order to inspire us, we're not going down. So Hashem doesn't go down to his heart to wake up his avenue. He doesn't need that. But he is going in when you go into his Tainuk. Now, coming to Geula, what do? And that's the studies that I was doing for my Simcha, that the Rebbe spoke about Simcha B'Tarosa, pure joy, and where we key into Hashem's pure. And to key into Hashem's pure, we had to key into pure Tainuk, that we're going up. We're not going down, we're going up. So that the whole process of coming into Geula is actually going up into, and this is a state of Geula operating from your innermost gear, your innermost core, and the Tainuk. And that's what's turning us on, is Dafka that Tainug. We're not going down. We're not going into Avanir. We're not using it to go down. We're using it to go up. So that's what we're talking about. What turns on that Tainug?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Also, I gave an example. There's a person that value-driven. There's all different personalities. There are 7 personalities that I studied. And one of them is a black and white. Very judgment, very justice. What's the right thing? And they're not into fun. They don't need that. Just the world, everyone should be doing the right thing. And as soon as you're not doing the right thing, they're disturbed. It's wrong. It's injustice. But also that person is operating from Tainug. It's giving them Tainug to make sure that there's a value, that there's truth and justice. So that's their point of Tainug. Everyone has an inner point of Tainug.
Yeah, but we want to get to Hashem's Tainug.
Yeah, I think my question was, how does one become aware of that Tainug? And that's what it is.
I think it comes. We know that Iyun process is driven by Tainug, and it will come eventually. I guess just knowing it is, an awareness. And I think it surfaces itself when we are actually engaged in Eon. And I know it sounds like the process will bring you, yeah, the process brings, yeah, the process will trigger that. Otherwise, why do you think he's telling all this to us? Like, just do the process, Rabbi Hillel says. Just do it. You know where it's rooted. You know what you're activating. You know what are you triggering. And
I have a question. In one of the classes, you mentioned, Mila, that every process, anything that we do goes through these 4 steps, going from Yesh Amiti to Yesh Nifrad, right?
through the Seder Ishtalshelus, yes, it comes.
And it's not only by Hashem, but also by the person itself. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, Yesh Amiti is when we are one with Hashem.
Right. Right. So, can you perhaps give an example of how, let's say, I just want to make sure that what we discussed is really aligned with the way it is. Would you say that, Yesh Amiti, you have an idea of something that you want to do, something good that you want to do that is aligned with Hashem's Ratzon, yeah? And then it goes through these steps. Can you perhaps a little bit elaborate on this, how it's happening in the person himself?
Sure. Like, let's say, what are the levels, right? Let's say a person has a desire to build a house. Okay. When he has that desire to build a house, there is an oneg of him actually sitting in the house. He has a picture of that and having fun. I don't know whether that's a picture of him by a Shabbos table with his 65 kids, or whether it's with, I don't know, him and his wife drinking coffee, whatever that is, right? It has a snapshot of all the details. Okay, like a photo. It's like a photograph. Photograph captures not only the experience, but also what it looks like, right? Like the details, what color walls are, what doorknobs look like, and all that stuff. We may not be aware of it when we are in the oneg aspect of it. We're not aware of all these details. All these details are going to be revealed in the Bina, in the Yesh Nifrad. Okay? So in the Yesh Amiti, that's that, thing. Now, then it creates the Ratzon, right? The Pnimis HaRatzon, Chafetz, right? This desire to want to have this. Okay, then it goes through this narrowing process, okay, of the Chachma of the Ratzon. That's already the Ayin, right? That's why it's called Ayin, because now it needs to narrow down, okay, into specifics, okay, into the Aleph, I'm sorry, into the Pele, into the Aleph, right? The Koach HaMaskil is now forced to give a flash of Chachma, right? That's something not only experiential, it's not only an experience of Oneg. However, later on, we're going to learn the Yichud, Pnimius Abba, Pnimius Atik. In the flash of Chachma, there is this actual picture that comes down, okay, that has a very specific gather of what this house looks like. It's a vision. Okay, so the Chachma is now turns into a vision, not only an experience, which was by the Oneg and Ratzon, but it's in the actual vision, right? So then that vision, that's already a second ayin, is going to become the makor for the Bina. And the Bina is going to go and ask very uncomfortable questions, where a person might be like, it's like working with your contractor. Okay, he's going to bring you this thick catalog to choose doorknobs. And you're like, well, I asked you for a house. Well, he says, I have no idea what kind of house you wanted. You now need to describe it to other. So that other, you're not the builder, right? Unless you are the builder. When we're talking about the tchum, like let's say you are a carpenter and you have that oneg and a vision and blah, 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 and you create something for yourself, it's difficult. It's much easier because your hands are going to produce your oneg. But when we are talking about other than you, who's going to be doing the work, you're going to go through the painful process of this. What did I wanted? You're going to travel back to your oneg, to your vision. Okay. And you're going to confirm the detail with your cloud. There's always going to be this relationship between the prat and a cloud, going up and down. Okay. Tiles, what color, what sizes? Up to the cloud. What did you see there? What brought you oneg? Because if one detail is going to be omitted, you're going to see the house and you're going to be like, I don't want that. Why don't you want that? Because I don't have oneg in this house. I have oneg in another house. And it's not based on my vision. So that's why, you know how many contractors told me that absolutely, they will not return a penny because of your mishugas. You have to make sure to tell them exactly what they want. And the good contractors are going to force you to tell them what you want, not what they think you want. Okay, because they know what's going to turn into. They're not going to get the second part of the deposit. They have to take you to court, right? Because if you don't want something, you don't want it. I mean, unless you're going to subdue yourself to this and you're going to live in a house that's not going to bring you pleasure. Oh, well, because it was cheap, because it was this, because it was that, because this is what was available. But that we're talking about the ultimate oneg, right? So when we're talking about the ultimate oneg, where the money is not an issue, and you have everything exactly what you want. So this is the process of this yesh amiti, right? Through 2 stages of ayin, of narrowing it down, okay? And then you have yesh nifrat, where you actually get what you want.
You want to donate to Hilu's thing?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know, Gitti, we would have to do some soul searching into why it's being over to our class, but we probably will come with some, there's definitely an oneg somewhere there that is.
I dragged you beyond the 2 hours.
You know what? And it's always like, I don't want to miss. So when am I going to listen later? So I stay on.
All right. So I think
but it was a good question and a good discussion. So
thank you. Okay, so that's it for this week. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next week.
okay. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thanks.